Hey, Yami here. So we're going to be going over the boss fights with Radagon and the Elden Beast and how to make it as easy as possible. Starting with the weapon selection, I think these three are the best, strongest, and most widely available to anybody at this point in the game. And Radagon's extremely weak to fire, so these weapons are going to be the ones that you would want to use the most. Magma Blade being the best and easiest overall to use for the fight. It is a rare drop, so I'll show you guys how to farm it later on if you haven't gotten it by luck already. Radagon is immune to bleed, so you're not going to be getting that out of Rivers of Blood, just the fire damage, but it's still a lot. And the Godslayer's Greatsword is pretty slow, so unless you're used to slow weapons, don't use it. If you are, you're going to get a great return of your investment from using it. But Magma Sword is by far the best with its Ash of War, which is what we're going to be focused on using. Going over Talismans, depending on which weapon you chose, the Magma Blade scales with Strength, while the other two scale with Dexterity, so choose the correct Talisman for the first one depending on the stat that your weapon scales with. The fight is going to depend mainly on the Ash of War of our weapon, so for the second Talisman, the Shard of Alexander, is going to be hugely important, since it increases the attack power of our skills. For the third one, the Rotten Wingsword Insignia is going to help a lot, and if you don't have that, because you either missed the fight with Millicent, or you fought against her instead of with her, then using its lesser version, the Wingsword Insignia, is still a solid choice, so use that one instead. For the last one, the Fire Scorpion Charm is going to be great, because all we're going to be using is fire damage for both fights. Now, if you're worried about taking damage instead of dealing it, the Haligdrake Talisman and the Pearl Drake Talisman will stack when you use both of them. And since Radagon and the Elden Beast use only holy damage, it's going to help mitigate a lot of that, especially when combined with the Incantations we're going to be using. So you can throw both of those on there too. Just swap them out with one of the other two. Going over Incantations, Lord's Divine Fortification and Normal Divine Fortification stack with each other, albeit with diminishing returns, but since both bosses use holy damage, it's going to be very important that we use both. Flame Grant Me Strength is also going to be crucial since we're only going to be using fire damage for both fights. Now, you can use the Golden Vow Incantation. It is technically slightly better at a slightly higher FP cost than its Ash of War counterpart, but neither are as good, in my opinion, as Rally Standard Ash of War, even though they do last longer. I would much rather use the Rally Standard Ash of War because it has a solid FP cost, much lower than Golden Vow Incantation, and it does more damage increase and damage negation. Going over Ash of War buffs, comparing Rallying Standard with Golden Vow, Rallying Standard costs 30 FP, lasts 30 seconds, and gives 20% extra damage with 20% damage negation. Golden Vow Ash of War costs 40 FP, lasts 45 seconds, and gives only 11.5% extra damage and 7.5% damage negation. Golden Vow Incantation's a bit better, but costs 47 FP, lasts 80 seconds, but still only 15% extra damage and 10% damage negation. I would choose Rallying Standard. I think it's better overall and a better fit for both fights. I didn't know this before recording the fights, but Rallying Standard and Golden Vow don't stack. They actually override each other, so you just need to pick one. Don't do what I do in the fights. It's a waste of mana and a waste of time. Just pick one and stick with it. Now, when picking a seal for your incantations, use the one that gives your character the highest incant scaling, as no seal boosts any of the incants that we talked about. So just choose the one that gives you the highest incant scaling. For the Physick mix, for the first one, I would use the Dexterity or the Strength Not Crystal tier for the weapon you chose and its corresponding scaling stat. For the second one, you have a few choices. The Thorny Crack tier is good, but not very consistent for the situation, since bosses are fast and they move a lot. But the Flame Shroud Crack tier actually did more damage for me consistently, so I would go with that one. If you're worried about taking damage instead of dealing damage, the Opaline Hard tier is a great pick. Do not pick the Opaline Bubble tier, since it only works for a single hit. Therefore, it's nowhere near as consistent as the Opaline Hard tier. Overall, this is the build I used. Again, I repeat, do not use both Golden Bow and Rallying Standard. They override each other. Just pick one. I'd choose Rallying Standard. It lasts as long as we need it to, with more damage added and negated than Golden Bow. I'm going to show you how to farm the Magma Blade if you don't already have it. If you do, go ahead and use the timeline to skip ahead to the boss's attacks or the fight itself. You're going to want the Silver Scarab Talisman and the Silver Pickled Foulfoot. Both of those items increase item drop chances, speeding up the process by a lot. Crepus's Vial Talisman also eliminates all sound, especially when you sprint, so you don't have to crouch to try to get behind enemies to critical hit them. You want to go teleport to the Volcano Manor's Temple of Eagle, and then you want to do this exact route that I'm going to show you, and rinse and repeat it until you get the Magma Blade drop. Once you get to about here on the lift, activate the Silver Pickled Foulfoot. Go ahead and kill this guy to the left. Go over here, and then you can stop here and wait for the lizard to turn around and then go crit him, or you can just charge him and attack him, your choice. Kill this guy. So there's 3 drops that you'll get. There's the Volcano Stone, there's the small shield that they drop, and then there's the Magma Blade, being the rarest of the 3. It might take a while, so have some patience, but I promise it is more than worth it. If you want to take the time to get 2 of them, it's a solid investment. But 1 is really all we need for this. Starting with Radagons Attacks. If you don't move at the beginning, he will hit you, most likely with lightning. And he likes to follow it up with this dash hammer that does a shit ton of damage. Slam dash uppercut, the hammer and the explosion both do damage, so be careful. The slam type 1, where the explosion is delayed. The slam type 2 has an instant explosion with a fairly big AoE. The stomp type 1 is quick, doesn't have an explosion though. Stomp type 2, a little bit slower, has an explosion. He has a teleport that damages you, and a lightning slam ground trap that does periodic damage that staggers you each time. He has a very delayed grab, does a shit ton of damage. Hits you twice, and knocks you pretty far. If his grab misses you, it'll cause an explosion, so you gotta dodge at the right time. He'll fly in the air and do an aerial slam with a big explosion. The triple slam, each with a massive AoE. In order to dodge each of them, you need to get close and roll past him each time. A single slam with a massive AoE, the same as before. You gotta dodge it as the same as before. Roll past him. If you get too far away because you either ran away or he teleported, he likes to use Finger Lightning. And this is a combo he likes to follow up with sometimes. He will also teleport stab you. Like that. Now for Elden Beast attacks. He will always start off with his Fire Breath. To dodge his Fire Breath, you want to run behind it as soon as possible and start to attack. You always want to make sure you're directly behind his body. He might move around a little bit, and if you're on either side, he'll take damage. Try to stick behind him. When he flies in the air like this, you want to wait until either you see the full circle or the full symbol. Do a 180, start sprinting. When you get to the edge of the inner first circle, jump or roll. You can do it for the second circle too. The second time he does this in the fight, do the exact same thing, but this time there's going to be 3 sets of rings to jump or roll through. You can conserve stamina by only doing it for the inner ring of each set. When you see his hand has a small gold orb in it, he's going to swipe and make galaxy bombs. Stay away. Another way he'll use the galaxy bombs is he'll follow it up with a gold sword that has an explosion after the swing. You can dodge it, but it's easier just to stay away and wait. When his wings start to glow on the ground or in the air, he's going to send a bunch of missiles at you, turn on them Lambo feeties, and start to sprint in a straight line. When you see a massive gold orb in his hand, that means he's about to grab you, chain you up with no safe word, and ruin your entire day. So dodge that shit. He'll stab the gold sword into the ground, dodge the stab and every pulse you see on the water and the big explosion at the end, or just avoid it altogether. He'll use the gold sword to fling gold air blasts at light speed. The second you see each actual blast close, hit dodge and you should be fine. And lastly, a simple swing, swing, slam. All easily dodgeable if you know it's coming, which I did not. Now on to the actual fight. Do both Fortification Incantations, then Golden Vow or Rallying Standard, whichever you chose. Do not do both. Next, do your Physick. Top it off with Flame Grant Me Strength. Lastly, restore your mana with the Flask. Go two-handed, then start. As soon as the fight starts, rush Radagon and get in 3 or 4 Ashen Wars, ready to dodge his first attack. Punish, get in a few more hits. You might need to hit quite a few more times. The second he does die, rebuff your flame, then vow and or rally first, then heal or refill mana after if you need to and can. Immediately rush behind the Elden Beast, and if you have to, heal or refill mana, then beat his ass till he runs away. Make sure you stay directly behind him for his Fire Blast. You don't want to get hit by it. Always try to chase him until he's about to attack, then wait and see what he does. For whatever reason, my frames kept dropping, making it hard to dodge his attacks. Most of them are really not too hard to dodge, I promise. And that's the fight. I wish you guys good luck. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for stopping by.